Hello everyone, this is Tejaswini Casey. Welcome to my channel Enlighten. In the today's video, we'll discuss about the part 2 of module 3rd, International Investment Process and Finance. The continuation part of this module 3rd. In previous video, we have discussed about the different entry mode choices to enter into the international market. So whereas in this today's video we'll discuss about the next aspects in your syllabus, that is models for making entry mode choice. That is your next concept in the syllabus. Here actually several models have been developed for making entry mode choice, and the different models are going to used by different countries as differently, and the models are basically based on certain hypotheses that each entry mode has specific costs, like a normal cost of production in home and normal cost of production at abroad. Like these kind of various costs are going to associate with the different countries' domain names. These costs are to be quantified to pick up the mode which is actually least cost. That is, if the exporting is costs lesser to the market, then they are going to choose up with the exporting. Or otherwise, if FDI, that is foreign direct investment, is going to cost cheaper, then they are going to selecting with the FDI rather than the producing the products in home country. Okay, and there can be just two distinct types of foreign direct investment decisions, that is FDI for serving the foreign market, and the second type is investment abroad to service home market. So how that is based on the output what we are going to get, no, based on that the investor need to take a decision. Okay, here the certain how the calculation of the costs in both the cases is going to shown. That is I have quote with just one example, that is the costs involved in both the situation which are to be considered in calculation are, that is serving the foreign market and serving the home market. In the two models also these costs are similar, these costs are identical ones, same, there is no change in a costs. Okay, that is the first cost is the normal cost of production at home, that is I have given a notation as C. Okay, in whichever the form of notation you can give, no problem in that. Okay, the second cost which I considered is normal cost of production abroad, that is denoted by C star. Okay, and the third cost is export marketing cost. Okay, that it is going to involve with the different tariffs, freight, etc. Okay, and that is denoted by M star. In order to make a export, these costs need to be bear by the home market, right? That is a tariff duty will be there, that need to be paid, and certain freight charges they need to pay. Okay, and certain dumping charges, that is anti-dumping duty, they need to pay. Different kinds of costs are going to incur while making with the export, that need to be associated with this calculation of models. And the fourth cost is additional cost to the firm, that is it is going to involve with environmental or cultural or political or any information costs. These are going to associated with, that is if the FDI market is chosen, then these kind of costs are going to be come up. Okay, that is additional cost to the firm to operate at abroad. In abroad, what are all the costs are going to occur for the home market. Okay, and let us discuss about this model 1, that is serving the foreign market. Okay, here the first situation or the first case I have chosen as export market. Okay, export, in which situation it is best suitable. Okay, that is export if C plus M star is lesser than C star plus A star, then exporting is cheaper than FDI. That is, C is going to denoted by normal cost of production at home, whereas M star is going to denoted by export marketing costs. Right? So if these costs are going to very much lesser, and here there is no problem in order to produce the goods in home market, then there is no problem to make any exports, then or the costs which is going to associated with these two are very less. Okay, in when it compared to the normal production, normal cost of production at abroad, and the additional costs are going to associated with the in abroad. Okay, if it is lesser than, then exporting is best rather than going with the FDI. Okay, here ಏನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ, ಈಗ ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ಹೋಮ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅನದರ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಈ ಎರಡೂ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ಗಳು ತುಂಬ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಬೆಲೆ ಆಯಿತು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಆವಾಗ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ಏನಾದರೂ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಟ್ ಅಬ್ರಾಡ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಬ್ರಾಡಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಇನ್ಕರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ನು, ಅದಾದಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಅಡಿಷ್ನಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಇನ್ಕರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆವಾಗ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಆ ಎರಡು ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇಫ್ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಸೊ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟಿಂಗ್ಗೆ ಬೆಟರ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೆಲ್. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೆಲ್, ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕೇಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಗೋ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಕೇಸ್ 2, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ FDI is going to selected if. Okay, that is FDI is going to selected if C star plus A star lesser than C plus M star, then FDI is cheaper than exporting. Okay, that is here what the normal cost of production at abroad is going to incur, or what the additional costs are going to incur at abroad are very much lesser when it compared to the normal cost of production in home market and the export marketing costs. These two are very much higher costs. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಏನಂತಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕೇಸಿನ ರಿವರ್ಸ್. ಈಗ ಹೋಮ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟು ನಮಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯಿತು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಆವಾಗ ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದರೆ FDIನ ಚೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಏನು ಅಬ್ರಾಡಲ್ಲಿ ಖರ್ಚಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು FDI ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟನ್ನು ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಈಗ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಮಾಡೆಲ್ 1 ಸರ್ವಿಂಗ್ ದ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಆಪ್ಷನನ್ನು ಯಾವಾಗ ತೊಗೋಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ಹೋಮ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟು ಮತ್ತು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟು ತುಂಬ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಆವಾಗ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟಿಂಗನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಅದೇ FDIನ ಯಾವಾಗ ಚೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ನು ಅಬ್ರಾಡಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತು ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಅಡಿಷ್ನಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ನಾವು FDI ಆಪ್ಷನನ್ನು ಚೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಓಕೆ, ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಮಾಡೆಲ್ 1 ಸರ್ವಿಂಗ್ ದ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್. And the model second is serving the home market or host market. Okay, that is host market, it's nothing but foreign market. Okay, here in the model second, the first case is produce domestically if, in the sense, the producing of the products in the home country, if these costs are lesser than the home country's production cost. Okay, that is here C is lesser than C star plus M star plus A star. That is, if normal cost of production at abroad and export marketing costs and additional costs are very much higher. Okay, and whereas the normal cost of production at home is very lesser. Okay, so in this situation, the producing in home country is best rather than going in the host country production process. Okay, here all the production process it need to be done in home country. After that, they need to send the goods to the foreign country. Okay, this is first case. And the second case is produce abroad if C is greater than C star plus M star plus A star. That is reverse case. That is how, in the sense, if normal cost of production at home is greater than, ಓಕೆ, ಅದು ತುಂಬ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ದರೆ, ನಾವು ಹೋಮ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ತುಂಬ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದಾದರೆ, when it compared to producing in abroad and export marketing cost and additional cost, then the option is producing in host country is best rather than to go with the home country's production. Okay, these are the two different models which has been developed as an example for you, and it is going to differ from one country to another country. It is not going to be similar. Okay, it is always different, or otherwise the denotes what I have given, no, that may be also going to differ. Okay, it is not like just C or C star or M star or A star. Okay, it is also going to differ. Here just you need to understood which selection mode is best. Okay, whether we need to make a serve for home market or we need to make serve for a foreign market. Okay, based on the costs, they are going to select which mode of entry we need to make a selection. First, we already discussed about the entry mode choices, right? So which entry mode choice they are going to choose. After that, they need to consider the cost also. Okay, that is the investment what they are going to make, no, that need to be fruitful. So for that reason, they need to make a analysis of these costs before investing in any market. Okay, this is about models for making entry mode choices. Next concept is determinants of international investment decisions. Here determinants, which means nothing but the pertaining factors in order to consider the international investment decisions. Okay, here the first point or the first determinant is FDI as a response to take risks. Okay, here actually FDI decisions are considered to be a firm's response to risks. Okay, and here governments might close access to specific markets by imposing tariffs or other any restrictions they may fix up. Okay, because the government's rules and regulations are differ from one country to another country. It is not going to be similar as in our India. Okay, it may differ in China or it may differ in America. Like these kind of imposing tariffs and other certain restrictions are going to differ. And here the perception of these threats by the firms is considered to be the responsible for FDIs. But there are other types of risks also, like that is foreign risk, market risk and business risk. Okay, and like certain risks which are also responsible for foreign investment policies of the firm. Okay, so here, so that is what FDI is going to make a response to risks. Okay, that is here option will be given, that is which kind of a risk they may choose. Okay, it is also going to be determined by the investor itself. So this is the first determinant, FDI as a response to risks. Okay, and second determinant is resources to protect competitive edge. Okay, here actually the most important determinant in the exploitation of natural resources is the petroleum or copper, right? That is going to dig from the earth itself. Till the eve of Second World War, about 60% of world stock of FDI was in natural resources itself. Here the firm which are resources are intensive always try to protect their access to these kind of resources by setting up of subsidiaries. Okay, the technology based firms are always afraid that their competitive edge will neither away when the local producers improve and adopt their technology. So hence setting up of manufacturing facilities in the local markets ensures FDI flows. Okay, here the best example for this resources to protect at competitive edge, in a sense, I can take the example of UAE, that is United Arabian Emirates. In Saudi Arabia, the business it's digging the petroleum products, right? So for their country, many investors are going to invest in those kind of countries. Okay, thereby they are going to generate with a income, and it is fully naturally available. Okay, so for that reason their main sources of income, it is based on petroleum product only. Okay, so here there is a more competition in order to get a investment on those type of countries. Okay, in order to invest on the petroleum, they may impose more kind of a tariffs and the imposition costs. Okay, so that is what here they need to, that is as an investor he need to protect the competitive edge which is actually going to fixed by the opposite countries. Okay, so that is what resources to protect competitive edge. And the third determinant is markets. Okay, here the different kind of markets are going to come, that is the market always it is going to differ from one country to another country. And actually here seeking markets has been another important traditional determinant of FDI. And here in case of the markets are going to protected from the international competition. Okay, that is through the tariffs or market access, or becomes any member for other countries. Okay, for example here after the entry of Pepsi into Indian market, Coke also entered, right? That is Pepsi actually it's foreign based, and Coke also it is foreign based. So they both were entered. That is after the entry of Pepsi, suddenly Coke also entered to our India. Okay, so like this, wherever the market opportunity will be there, no, the investor he need to or she need to make a grab of those kind of things. Okay, and fourth determinant is efficiency. That is here efficiency how they can improve in the sense that is low cost of a production in developing countries due to cheap labor would be another driving force of FDI. That is here how best we can produce the product in low cost, especially in developing and underdeveloped countries. This low cost of production is very much necessary, because the resources or the any kind of a resources it will be less in those kind of a developing and underdeveloped countries. So that is what here efficiency can be improved with a low cost of production. Okay, and here like such another example, it's export processing zones, right? That is like a special economic zones and free trade zones. Like these kind of a different zones are being developed by government, because in order to give certain concessions for them, because they are totally in a very they are not going to get with a certain facilities also. So that's what it is going to treat it as the zones. So in special economic zones and free trade zones, it is actually developed by the government, because mostly to make the advantage for the local peoples and as well as for the investors. Because if in any special economic zone one factory established means, then many of them will get an employment opportunity, so that they are also going to get benefit. And whereas in case of market, that is company, they are going to generate with the income, and foreign exposure they may get. Okay, so that is what here efficiency also matters most. Okay, and the last determinant is threat reciprocity. That is reciprocity, which means nothing but how best we can make a control the threat from the foreign market. Okay, that is when foreign firms start manufacturing operations at abroad, here local firms perceive certain threats. Okay, in this kind of a situation, in some time they need to manufacture the operations in the domestic market only. In domestic market, if operations have been carried out, then here also the income generation is going to be happens, and in the abroad also the income it is going to be generated. So for this reason, the threat it need to be reciprocated. That is, it need to be divided among the home country and as well as in the foreign country. Okay, so here the best example that I can give is Vijay Mallya's itself, Kingfisher, right? So actually Kingfisher, it is having home market in India, but it have a huge subsidiaries. It was having a huge subsidiaries in different countries, okay, of world. But when it is threatened, in a sense, in foreign countries, actually the demand of Kingfisher it's suddenly fall down. So that is what and the production it is going to be taken process in abroad itself. Okay, so here the concentration of the home market, it's fully fall down. So that is what this kingfisher, it's become a fallen now. Okay, so always threat, it need to be divided among the home country and as well as among the foreign market. If threat it is not divided, then the problem it may come for the whole companies, including the parent and the subsidiary company. Okay, this is all about the determinants of international investment decisions. The next concept of your syllabus is factors influencing foreign direct investment decisions. Here, the certain factors which are directly or indirectly going to make an influence for the decision of foreign direct investment. Those factors are going to those factors are as follows. The first factor is stable, predictable macroeconomic policy. Here, when it comes to macroeconomic policy, the broad economic variables are going to come forward. That is the calculation of economic wealth and the calculation of economic profit, balance of payments, okay, and more concentrately the pest analysis, okay, that is political, economical and sociological and technological factors. Okay, political factors, how it is going to be in the sense, any government, it may take a example, it need to be constant for certain period, then only that government it is going to call as the stable and it is having a potential. Okay, otherwise we cannot call those kind of countries government as stable government. Okay, so this is about the political economic variable, and next it's about economic variables. Economical in the sense it is going to involve with all kind of matters, that is like GDP analysis or any domestic growth analysis. Okay, and the next thing it's about the capitalistic economics, capitalist, socialist and mixed economy, Karl Marx economy. Okay, these kind of economists theories or the views, as an investor they need to make a select those kind of things. Okay, and when it comes to sociological, that is the demography factors, okay, or any age and those kind of things they need to concentrate. And next thing it's about technological factors, and that is technology in the sense innovation, how best the product it can be made as an innovative product that need to be dealt by the investor before they made an investment into the FDI market. Okay, this is the first factor, stable, predictable macroeconomic policy. Second factor is an effective and honest government. That is whatever the government, it need to be in a honest and it need to be in a effective manner. That is the government, it need not to be corrupted government. Okay, if the government is corrupted, then it is not possible to improve the financial position of the country. Okay, so that is what the government, it need to be effective and honest. That is here the best example in our India only, the industrialization it's been happened. Okay, that is by following up with the Industry Policy Resolution Act. Okay, the Basic Act is in 1948, but different amendments were made to that act. Okay, and here And another kind of initiative which was taken by Narendra Modi is the making of smart cities, okay, and Make in India concept, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, okay. And another thing, it's about when it comes to corona itself, different kind of policy initiatives it is made by the government. So these kind of different initiatives, it need to be done by the governments, so then only we can call that particular government as effective and honest. If government is effective and honest, then all the country's people will be in a position to understand everything, and thereby here the investor also going to make an investment in those kind of countries, okay. So that is what here the effective and honest government is required. Actually, why America it is given a support in the COVID-19 pandemic, in the sense because the government or the Modi's friendship with Donald Trump, it's in a good manner. So that is what they have given certain benefits for America, and as well as we Indians also provided certain benefits for the American peoples. Okay, here actually another thing, it's about Russia. Russian government actually it's a 147th corrupted country in the whole world. Okay, that is most of the peoples they are not going to make an investment in those kind of countries. Okay, this is the second factor, an effective and honest government. And the third factor is a large and growing market. Here a large and growing market, which means nothing but the opportunities or the potentialities which is and which will be established by the different kinds of countries. Okay, here actually in India there are more number of opportunities available for the foreign investors. Okay, so that is what only Walmart it is entered to our India. That is, it's clubbed the name as Bharati Walmart. Bharati, it's in actually in Madhya Pradesh. It is located. Okay, it is a supermarket, and when it was collaborated with the Walmart, then their name is changed to the Bharati Walmart. So now they are carrying the operation as jointly. Okay, so here there is no barrier to entry. Here there is a freedom of activity in the market. Okay, and the fifth factor is sorry. This is the third factor, a large and growing market. And the fourth factor is freedom of activity in the market. Okay, here the freedom of activity in the market, in the sense that is nothing but there should be free environment to entry and to exit from the market. Here this is in freedom of activity in the market. There should be free environment to enter into the market and exit from the market. The best example I can give which was actually made by our government of Karnataka, that is they have made a global investors meet in 2018, and that is actually Costco. Costco, it is a foreign based MNE in Gadag. This global some investors meet, it was happened in 2018. Okay, in this actually Costco, it is a farmer based foreign country MNE. Okay, here actually land which is going to acquired from the farmers. Okay, and from the instead of farmers land, they are going to take the land and they are going to sow the they are going to make a farming. After that they are going to give the whatever the fertility which is going to come from those land, they are going to give it to the farmers. ಏನು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಇದು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಗ್ಲೋಬಲ್ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಮೀಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ 2018 ಮಾಡ್ತು. ಅದು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಗದಗಲ್ಲಿ. ಗದಗಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡಿದರು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಫಾರ್ಮರ್ಸಿಂದ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡನ್ನು ಫಸ್ಟು ತೊಗೊಂಡ್ರು. ಓಕೆ, ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಅವ್ರ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲೇ ಇರ್ತಿತ್ತು. ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಅದರಿಂದ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನು ಏನೋ ನೀರಾವರಿ, ಅದು ಭತ್ತ ಬೆಳೆಯೋದು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಫ್ರೂಟ್ಸ್ ಬೆಳೆಯೋದು, ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಏನು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇಳುವರಿ ಬರ್ತಿತ್ತು ಅದನ್ನು ಫಾರ್ಮರ್ಸಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ವಾಪಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಿದ್ರು. ಆ ಥರ ಒಂದು ಗ್ಲೋಬಲ್ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಮೀಟನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿದರು. ಇದು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಯಾವ ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ಈ ಥರ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಒಪ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಕೋಸ್ಕೋ. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ MNE. Okay, they are taken the agreement to do the business with these kind of things, and at last the whole land it is going to given to the farmers itself. There is no burden for farmers. Okay, at free they are going to earn without any risk. Okay, this is the fourth factor, freedom of activity in the market. Fifth factor is minimal government regulations. That is, here it is all comes under the legal framework of the government. Okay, here how it is going to work in the sense that is, if for the foreign advocates we need to, that is for foreign advocates, if any case they need to deal in India, then Indian government they need to give the permission for those foreign advocates, then only they can take the cases in our India, or otherwise it is not possible. That is whatever the cases related to international business. While doing the international business, certain frauds are going to happen, no? At that situation cases are going to filed. Okay, so if foreign advocates, they need to opt in a sense, they need to take the permission from the Indian government or the home country's market where the fraud actually been happened. Okay, so that is nothing but government restrictions where it is minimum, there only the investor need to make a investment, but it is not that much good factor. In no other country the government regulations are going to be minimum. Okay, in all the countries they are having a certain own constitution. Based on that only they are going to work out. Okay, and sixth factor is property rights. That is, here property rights, which means nothing but it is purely related to intellectual property rights itself. Okay, that is the best example I can give you is relating to the cancer medicines which is going to produce in India and which is going to produce in abroad or the foreign. Okay, so for cancer medicines actually been preferred with the generic medicines. Okay, here generic medicines, how it is going to be happens in the sense, for certain years they are going to be registered. Okay, and it is not publicly available, but after that certain period it is publicly available to the licensed party, and after that, after certain years, it is freely available to the common people also. Okay, this is the agreement which is relating to the generic medicines. Okay, there is no any strict or hard rules relating to this intellectual property rights. Okay, but this need to be mentioned in the collaborative agreement, that is the clause that they need to mention, and after that the government of the particular country should be followed, and after that it need to be agreed by both the countries, then only it is going to be possible. Okay, or otherwise it is not possible. And this is relating to generic medicines. And when it comes to any technology borrowing, okay, in order to produce anything, okay, at that situation also they need to take a permission from both the countries, and if they are agreed, then the technology upgradation or technology right, it is going to transfer from one country to another country. Okay, this is property rights. And the next factor is availability of high quality factors of production. Okay, that is here whatever the factors of productions are there, okay, in that only they need to produce up with a high quality products. Okay, that is producing in low and opting with more results. Okay, that is, it is going to deal with the availability of high quality factors of production. And next thing, it's about
reliable infrastructure, which means nothing but the infrastructural facilities which is going to be provided to the different investors, that is the basic facilities for the investors in order to invest in different countries around the world. This is reliable infrastructure facilities which was given to the investors.
strong local currency. Okay, that is when it comes to our Indian rupee, it is actually less value when it compared to America and other countries like Japan, Russia, or England currencies. Okay, but when it compared to Indonesia, okay, and other Pakistans, okay, our Indian rupee is more valuable than those kind of countries currencies. Okay, so here wherever the strong local currency it's there, if investor invested there, then he will reap up with a more fruitful results. Okay, and next factor is land acquisition. Okay, actually all the land owner basically the government. Okay, if emergency period came into force in the sense, then every person will lose the authority on their own land. Okay, ಈಗ ಏನು ಅಂದರೆ ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ಬಂದುಬಿಡ್ತು ಅಂದರೆ ಗೌರ್ನಮೆಂಟೇ ಓನರ್ ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡಿಗೆಲ್ಲ. ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ಗೌರ್ನಮೆಂಟೇ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಓನರು ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ. ನಮ್ಮ ಸೈಟ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಯಾವುದೇ ಥರ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಓಕೆ, ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಓನರ್ ಈಸ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ authority of a land which is going to lies in which person's name. Okay, here how it is going to be make a land acquirement which is going to done by the government, in the sense, if 100 people are there, then 80% of them they need to give a consent for the particular land to acquire. At that situation, government will acquire the lands. Okay, in emergency period there is no any those kind of restrictions. Every person, every citizen of India, he will lose the possession of their land or possession of their property. Here for the every property, the ultimate owner is government only. Okay, this is the land acquisition factor. And next factor is favorable tax climate. Okay, that is in whatever the country, the tax claims in regards to the monetary and fiscal policies or the policy measures, it need to be fully thoroughly analyzed by the investor before making any investment in a particular country. Okay, and at last factor is freedom to operate between the market, that is between the home and the host country. There should be free or the open access market. It need not to consist with any barriers. If barriers associated between those markets, then it is not possible to establish the fully fledged market, fully fledged business market. So that is what the operation, whatever the operation it may be carried by the countries, it need to be in a freedom way. This is all about the factors influencing foreign direct investment decision. Okay, the next concept in your syllabus, it's transfer pricing. Okay, basically transfer pricing, it is nothing but the transferring cost which is going to occur from one department to another department shiftment. Okay, here transfer pricing is one of the most important and controversial aspects of international business. Here actually MNCs usually pursue global and transnational strategies which give rise to globally dispersed web of productive activities. Okay, actually the transfer price, it refers to the price at which goods and services are transferred between entities within the firm is referred to as the transfer price. Here already I told you, that is the transfer pricing, it is going to taken between the departments of the same entity. Okay, that is say for example P is the entity. Okay, A, B, C, D, E are the different departments of the P entity. Okay, that is A department, they are going to procure with the raw materials, and after that B department, they are going to make a processing the raw material, and after that the C department is going to make the conversion of raw material into semi-finished product, and department D, they are going to give the ultimate shape for the product, and ultimately in the department E, okay, the finished goods are going to be ready, and in department F, the dispatching department. Okay, from dispatching department, the goods and services are going to reach to the ultimate consumers through different channels of distribution. Okay, this is what the transfer price we are going to call. And in other words, transfer pricing refers to the rules and methods for pricing transactions between enterprises under common ownership or control. It can also be called as pricing of the intra-corporate transactions. So that is here, whatever the rules and methods which are relating to the pricing transactions, it need to be between the enterprises only. It need not to cross other enterprise. Okay, here the common ownership and control will be there. Okay, and this transfer pricing also going to call as intra-corporate transactions. Why? Because the whatever the transactions are going to take on place, it is going to between the related parties. Okay, that is the cost or the price which is going to share between department A to B and department A plus B, it is going to share with a C, and C it is going to share with a D. It is going to invoice with the A cost, B cost and C cost, and ultimately in the E department all the costs of a departments are going to involve. Here for one department to another department there is a connection. Okay, A department actually procure with the raw materials, whereas B it is going to procure with the that is process the raw material, and third they are going to give the semi-finished goods, and fourth they are going to give ultimate shape, and in the fifth department finished goods are ready, and in the sixth department it is ready to dispatch to the ultimate consumers. Okay, so that is what transfer pricing is also going to call as intra-corporate transactions, that is between the entity. Okay, the next concept is arm length price. Okay, it is also same as a transfer pricing. One different aspect it is going to come in arm length pricing. Okay, arm length pricing, it is the condition or the fact that parties to a transaction are independent. That is, here this arm length price, it is not going to make associated with the related parties. Here the arm length pricing, it is going to make with the transactions with unrelated parties. Okay, here for your example purpose I made one chart also. MNC A. Okay, here B and C both are parties for the same MNC. Okay, B actually it is having a certain departments. Okay, there actually transfer pricing it is going to occur, and all the departments are dependent on one another. Okay, and for this we are also going to call as the intra-corporate transaction. Okay, whereas A it is also having an unrelated party of C. Okay, so between A and C, arm length pricing it is going to take place. Okay, that is independent parties, that is it is a intercorporate transaction. Okay, basically this arm's length transactions are going to conducted in the real estate transactions. Why? Because in a sense to ensure that the price being offered for the property is consistent with a fair market value for that property. Okay, here actually they both are unrelated parties. There is no any relationship between the real estate owner and the party who is ready to buy that particular property or the asset. Okay, so for example when two strangers, okay, that is the parties to a real estate transaction, the seller wants to charge the highest possible price for that property and the buyer wants to pay the lowest possible price for that property. Okay, so at last therefore it is more likely that the final agreed upon price is at close or the fair, at a fair market value the property it's going to sold to the buyer or the particular person who is ready to buy that particular property. Okay. And in order to calculate with the transfer pricing, there are different methods are there. Okay. In economics, maybe you may study those kind of things in managerial economics. And for arm length pricing also, there are different kinds of methods are there, like casual method, residual method. Okay, and this is basically calculated as per section 5 of Income Tax Act of 1961. There is actually provision for this arm length price, and as well as for the provision for transfer pricing, it's also there while dealing with the international business. Okay, so next we'll go with a certain objectives of transfer pricing. Okay, the first objective is to maximize the tax profit. That is, after profit, it is going to deduce certain deductions. It is going to make a deduction of certain kind of allowances or certain kind of deductions it is going to make. Okay, thereby the profit amount it is going to be make a lesser, and so tax portion which is going to be less. It is not going to be more. Okay, and the second objective is reduces custom duty payments. That is, custom duty payments in the sense when the inter-border transactions were happened, at that time in the customs office they need to pay certain custom duty as a payment. What the property or what the kind of a product we are opted for, that we need to pay certain custom duty. That is, the buyer, the one who is ready to buy that particular property or any kind of asset, they need to pay certain custom duty. Okay, that is what we are going to call as the custom duty payments. Okay, in that is in custom duty law and practices, there is a detailed discussion on that. Okay, and third objective is circumventing the quota or restrictions. That is, here there is a more chance for intentionally violate the law. Okay, here knowingly they are going to violate certain laws. That is relating to quota. Quota means certain prescribed quota, which means nothing but a limited quantity of a particular product which is under official control can be produced and exploited and imported for the home country. That is what we are going to call as quota. Okay, so in opting with a quota, they may take certain deviations, and they make certain violation of rules and regulations. Okay, and there are actually in the international business law, there are certain restrictions which are imposed. Okay, in sometimes investor, in order to protect themselves, they are going to violate the certain restrictions also. Okay, that is like trading in with illegal products, like dealing with drugs or dealing with certain any ganja, these kind of things they are going to trade. No, in that kind of a situation, there of course they will violate the law. There is no chance for them. So for that reason, in order to escape from the law, they are going to do these kind of things. Okay, and it is possible if in case they are going to follow with the transfer pricing technique. Okay, and the last objective is window dressing. Actually, this is a white collar crime. Okay, intentionally doing the mistake. Okay, that is what I already dealt with the circumventing itself. Okay, so here since the governments have realized that the transfer prices are used to reduce tax liability basically, and to move funds out of the country, they are going to impose certain strict regulations, but no one will follow those kind of a strict regulations. All of them are ready to violate those kind of a things. Okay, and whereas some countries have been prescribed the rules for transfer pricing. Okay, another problem is it is difficult to evaluate the performance of a subsidiary when transfer pricing is used. Actually here the problem is when actually transfer pricing it is used, no, at that time it is not possible to evaluate what the contribution which was made by the subsidiary company. Okay, why? Because in the sense it is accumulated cost what we are going to get at last. Okay, so for that reason it is not possible if the transfer pricing is used. Okay, so here it can be concluded that the transfer pricing is an inevitable outcome, that is it is not at all controllable one, okay, in the multinational operations of firms, but it is not ethical to use this mechanism for the purpose of manipulation. Actually transfer pricing it is already involved with a manipulation. Again if the investor is going to make in the sense, then manipulation it is going to be double. Okay, so for that reason it is not ethical practice to follow with this purpose of transfer pricing. Okay, this is all about the transfer pricing and arm length pricing. Okay, let us at last will discuss certain key terms which are actually used in this module 3rd. Okay, so the first key term is base erosion and profit shifting. These key terms may asked for 2 marks in your annual exam, that is in some exam. Okay, the first key term is base erosion and profit sharing. Actually this is one of erosion means nothing but escapism. Okay, the escapism how they make in the process of profit making. Okay, this is one of the technique which is actually used as the transfer pricing technique itself. Okay, this is actually the technique which was introduced by the Organization for Economics Cooperation Development, that is by OECD. So it refers to a planning strategy relating to tax used by the MNCs that exploits gaps and mismatch the tax rules artificially and shift the profits to low or the no tax locations. Okay, this is actually technique of reducing the tax strategy. Okay, it is always most of the MNCs are going to use this technique. Okay, it is actually what does do in a sense, it is intentionally make the mismatches between the tax rules artificially, and they are going to make more deductions. Okay, and then they are going to show the profit as very low, or in sometimes there is no profit, like that they are going to show. Okay, this is about the base erosion and profit sharing technique, which was actually introduced by OECD, that is Organization for Economics Cooperation Development. Okay, this is first key term, base erosion and profit shifting. Next key term is contract manufacture. That is here contract manufacture, which refers to a firm which markets and sells products into international markets might arrange for a local manufacturer to produce the product for them under contract. Here, the foreign producer, he is going to make an agreement with a local manufacturer to produce certain outcomes of the particular product under certain contract consideration. Okay, this is what we are going to call as contract manufacturing. Okay. In previously itself, I have quoted one example relating to Jaguar and our Tata, right? So Jaguar's certain outcomes or the certain products, that is semi-finished products, are going to produced from our Tata, and it is going to send to the Jaguar, and thereby in Jaguar company it is finally become as the finalized car. Okay, in England it is going to become. Okay, here Tata will get certain contract price. Okay, other than no any other benefits what it is not going to derive from this kind of a contract manufacturing. Okay, this is about contract manufacturing. And next key term is turnkey projects. Okay, the turnkey projects is a contract under which a firm agrees to fully design, construct and equip a manufacturing or business or service facility and turn the project over to the purchaser when it is ready for operation for remuneration. Okay, so that is, in contract manufacturing, certain semi-finished products are for certain semi-finished goods, the agreement it is going to be made so far. Okay, whereas in turnkey projects, the finalized product are ready. Okay, and it is going to sold to another person. Okay, so that is the best example I can give you is road, relating to road manufacturing itself, right? While constructing with any national highways or state highways or any other highways, okay, here what happens in the sense, they are going to give a project to the engineers. Okay, thereby the engineers will complete the road, okay, from one destination to another destination. Okay, after this, actually the government will pay certain amount to those engineers. That is what in tender it was mentioned, no, that price they are agreed and that price they are going to get. Okay, but the government after that they are going to collect the toll gate amount, right? In toll we need to pay certain amount for the usage of that particular road, right? So it is actually the road, it was fully constructed by engineers. Okay, whereas the government purchased that road, okay, from the engineers by giving with a certain remuneration for them, and after that it is again gets the benefit from the ultimate consumers or the peoples. Okay, this is what the turnkey projects. Next key term is merger. Merger, you already heard about this, right? It is a combination of two or more organizations in which one acquires the assets and liabilities of the other in exchange for shares or cash. Okay, merger it is also going to call as like amalgamation, consolidation or integration. Okay, next key term is acquisition. Okay, acquisition is a process of acquiring and purchasing an existing venture. It is one of the easy means of expanding a business by entering a new market or new product areas. Okay, in mergers, right, there will be equal participation of the companies. Okay, that is what Tata Docomo and Hero Honda, okay, Maruti Suzuki, these are all comes under the merger examples, right? When it comes to acquisition, in this acquisition there is no any consideration for the company which is going to acquired from another company. Okay, that is actually Mahindra, okay, actually taken over the Satyam Computers. Okay, there is no individual recognition for Satyam Computers as of now. From 2008, what the scam it was happened, no, from that time there is no any individual recognition, but it was fully acquired by the Mahindra. Okay, acquired by the Mahindra, and the name of Satyam Computers it's fully violated, or it is not at all usable. Okay, whatever the share it is left out, or whatever the profit it is left out, it is all in the name of Mahindra only. Okay, this is what we are going to call as acquisition. Okay, next is wholly owned subsidiary. Okay, wholly owned subsidiary, the common reason for operating as wholly owned subsidiary is separately from the owner company could be name value. Often a well-known and respected corporation is acquired by another entity that has no name recognition in that particular market. That is what the company, it is not at all having any recognition. At that situation, another company will take over that particular company, and they are going to give certain name, and after that it is going to be involved in the particular what the company it is taken over. Okay, this is a wholly owned subsidiary. Okay, next key term is greenfield investment. So greenfield investment, it is the establishment of new wholly owned subsidiaries. That is, there will be the subsidiary that is wholly owned subsidiary, it is purely reconstituted or constituted with a fresh company, as a fresh company. Okay, and the last key term is assembly operations. Okay, a foreign owned operation might be set up simply to assemble components which have been manufactured in the domestic market. Okay, it has the advantage of reducing the effect of tariff barriers which are normally lower on components than on finished goods. Here the foreign company, they are going to give the contract to produce certain semi-finished goods in the local market, that is in domestic market. Okay, and domestic market will send the whatever the semi-finished they are produced, they will send it to the foreign company corporation or the foreign company, that is foreign country. Okay, and after that, why actually this is going to done, in the sense on the finished goods the tariffs or the imposing cost or the exporting cost or the importing cost will be more. Okay, whereas on the semi-finished products there will be lesser tariff barriers. Okay, so that is what the domestic countries, that is the domestic country, that is the parent company which is situated in domestic market, always going to follow these kind of assembly operations. Okay, that is what only Tata also agreed with the Jaguar. Why means Tata, it is going to send the semi-finished goods to the Jaguar. Okay, whereas while exporting the semi-finished goods, Tata need to give certain tariffs, right? So at that time the cost of tariffs which will be less. If the whole car is ready, the final car is ready, if they need to send or they need to export to the foreign country, in the sense, at that time the tariff imposition will be more. Okay, so to curb or to control the tariff barriers, this assembly operations are going to be carried out. Okay, so by this we are going to end up with the key terms which are used in this module. Okay, and here we'll also conclude with this module 3rd. Okay, at last we'll go with the conclusion. Okay, so here what happens means for both domestically and globally, protecting with the investment process and making finance through different entry mode choices are very much essential. Okay, essential part for sustainable growth and development. By working with the domestic and international partners, there is no any escapism. If we are agreed once, in a sense, we need to go with that, or we need to make a obey for those practices. Okay, that is what we have made the international level agreement. Okay, and the next thing is about providing with a technical analysis and capacity building through knowledge sharing, policy advice, technical expertise on trade and finance issues. On these different issues, as an investor, he need to take a eye on everything. Okay, on everything there should be one eye. Okay, because in international business, if once any conflicts arises, means in a sense, then the opposite party will lose the good intention on the another party. So that is what maintaining the harmonious relationship in international business is very much essential part on every corner of the business. Okay, so thus the investor need to choose the best among the available entry mode alternatives to enter into foreign market and increase the production level at home country also. Okay, so by this we are successfully completed with the module 3rd. If you have any doubts, please ask me. Okay, I am free to answer, and no need to make a hesitation. Okay, you can ask any doubts. Whatever the clarification is needed for you, I will make solve on that. And if you have any doubts, I can also make an arrangement of Zoom meeting for you. Okay, I will make an arrangement of Zoom meeting also after 1 or 2 days. Before that, you ensure that you all watched 2 videos, then only you come across with the doubts, or otherwise it is not possible to come across with the doubts. Okay, and if chance it's given to take a class in university, okay, it is actually known factor. After this lockdown, classes will be arranged for you. At that time, I'll once again make a glimpse on this module 3rd. Okay, for module 4 also I will do the same thing. Okay, if you have any doubts or queries, please do ask me. And in order to make use for you, I have already shared international business question papers for you. Okay, go through with this. Thank you. So thank you so much for your patience listening, and stay tuned for next videos, my upcoming videos. Okay, and please do like it, and if you liked, do subscribe for my channel. Okay, thank you one and all. Thank you from Tejaswini. Thank you.